Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here with us on our last Let's Talk of the year. This is our 8th Let's Talk session, and raise your hand if you've been with us before. I think most of us. Great, great. And we're just so happy that you chose to spend a little time with us this evening because you are in for a treat with having Jessica Cabine in the house. And so we're excited. We'll introduce her in a little bit, but I'm going to switch over sharing my screen and just to go through, you know this. So in fact, you could actually do it. So here we go. Let's see. Oh, I think you might be seeing my messy desktop. Hold on.
All good. We've been there before. And then there's windows you don't even realize you have open still that you swore you closed from like 2 weeks ago.
That's right. You got to see my staff assistant, my weekly bulletin. What else did you get to see? Hold on just a sec.
Ta-da! There you go. Fantastic.
So here we are. Let's talk. And this tonight's topic is just leading with grace. Grace is one of my favorite words. And just really leaning into that end of the school year. So it is, we're just so excited to be with you. I'm Kate Barker, principal at Cherry Park Elementary in the David Douglas School District. And I also am serving for the next month as your OESPA president.
Excellent. I am Rachel George. I'm the principal at Sandy Grade School in the Oregon Trail School District. I'm the past president for OESPA and then also the NAESP state rep. Happy to be here with you guys. This is like one of the highlights of my week. So the norms, you guys probably could recite these probably backwards, forwards, and sideways. And you're already following them, which is fantastic. Just remember that you don't actually need to do the first one. That's a carryover from our first session with Adam. So you don't need to put your phone number unless you want to. We appreciate you having your microphone muted. We do have some breakout sessions planned for today, and you'll have a chance to interact and get together with folks, which I know you'll really enjoy and like. And then definitely use the chat box. We're gonna ask a couple key questions, especially at the end as we plan for the future, that we would love your input on.
All right. Sorry, I clicked that ahead one too soon, Rachel. So we are always interested to know who's in the room, especially for our guest speaker. So if you wouldn't mind just inserting your name, school, and your district, and then what's something that you're looking forward to for some summer fun. If you could just use the chat box at this point in time to share some of your joy for the summer.
Love it. You know, Kate, this last week when I was doing my weekly morning assembly, Friday morning with kids, we were talking about what are you looking forward to over the summer, and a bunch of kids in the chat box wrote swimming, but you know, we really don't know if swimming pools will be opened. So I gave the suggestion, just saying, I put it out there, you could always go swimming in your bathtub, right? Like if the pools are closed, you can't go out to the lakes, you can just put your bathing suit on and chill in the bathtub or the shower. I'm not sure how many kids will pull that one off, but that was my go-to summer thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Got Linda's looking forward to some gardening. Grandkids, oh, that's fantastic.
Good. Was that Marshall? Yeah.
Grandkids.
She has two of the cutest grandkids you'll ever see.
Oh, Susan's looking forward to grandkids too. Granddaughter.
Hey, so does she. She has a cutie too.
Oh, time with family. I think it's going to be a great time to recharge and rest. You know, like we've been going 90 miles an hour on this marathon of distance learning, and just kind of take a breath and take care of ourselves, I think is going to be a fantastic thing without feeling the obligation of, you know, that email that pings in the middle of the night.
Yep, and hopefully just pausing, so because all of this is so new, and when we're learning something new and then trying to implement something new, that it really it can wear you down. So I always say my days go so fast, and at the end of it I'm like, okay, did I get anything accomplished? So we're just so happy that you're here and learning with us. Okay, so we're just going to move on to just with the PowerPoint theme of just we're going to just spend some time blooming with grace, and in other words, just learning with giving it ourselves permission, like we have, hopefully all of you have in the last couple of months, just really remembering that we're all just we're running as fast as we can, and hopefully you're giving yourself permission to try something new and to fail, and to give your to be apologetic to yourself. So Rachel's going to go through the purpose of our series.
Yeah. So 8 weeks ago, when we kicked this baby off, we are just so thankful that you guys showed up, and that it has been worth your time. And we really tried to ground our work with being able to connect with each other, supporting each other, collaborating and inspiring, all with the focus of helping serve you guys and connecting others. So hopefully we hit that on the mark. You know, you guys keep showing up every week. So we're thinking we're onto something a little bit. So we're just continuing and holding strong all the way up through the finish. So we know without a doubt that today will definitely leave you inspired and definitely connected and supported. So it's going to be a fantastic evening.
So I am just so excited to introduce you to the amazing Jessica Cabine, who lives in the spam capital of our world. And she is from Austin, Minnesota. And I can't wait to see how you say Oregon. Can't wait until you say that, Jessica. She is a National Distinguished Educator, Principal of the Year for Minnesota. And she has 2 beautiful sons and a great husband. And she has a new golden doodle puppy named Herman, who is just the cutest ever. And she loves to read. And she was with us a couple of years ago, about 18 months ago, and is just really an inspirational leader. She was one of our keynotes and did a beautiful breakout session. And we, both Rachel and I, were just like, we have to have her part of this series. So thankfully she's lending her brilliance and her time this evening with us. And I'd like to introduce Jessica Cabine. Welcome, Jessica.
Oh, wow. That was a very warm welcome. Holy cow. Thank you. Okay, so this is my time. Okay, I'm gonna share screen, make sure I have sound. I have to self-talk everything. All right, here we go. I think, am I sharing? Can you see?
Yes,
you got it. Nice job.
My favorite is when I'm in a Zoom call and I can't hear them very well, I just lean closer. Like that's the old me. Like if I just get closer, I'm going to hear it better. So know that we're gonna have some fun tonight. I loved how you guys were talking about the end of the year. And I think when I talked to Kate and Rachel, most of you have another 2 to 3 weeks left of distance learning before, okay. So we're finishing up with distance learning here in Minnesota on June 3rd. But I have my Post-it note. I have a folder of pre-June 3rd and post-June 3rd. And I'm at a point where if it doesn't have to get done before June 3rd, it's just going in the other folder, and I'll look at it like June 8th. Like I have to end the year, even on a regular year. This time of the year, it is about just trying to find more self-care, trying to keep your emotions in check, because this is always when people have so many questions and question you, and you have to have all the answers and be on all the time, and just making sure that you're taking that time to recalibrate and self-regulate before you respond to others is really important. So which is funny because when you get to the next slide, you'll be like, wow, she just totally flipped a switch here. So, but thank you for letting me be here. I am a recovering assistant middle school principal who then became a elementary principal, not just an elementary principal, a kindergarten principal. So I went from 7th and 8th graders, no problem, to 405-year-olds. I had no idea what I was doing. I am like, there are Tinker Toys flying around. I don't understand this. Young man missed the urinal. I thought it was like, we have to expel him for like property destruction. You know, it was crazy. But it was the best 6 years of my life because I learned a ton about how to lead with grace and how to listen to early learning educators. Because if you have pre-K kindergarten teachers in your building, you know they are a unicorn or a beast, depending on what minute you're in with them. Just be careful you have enough red and pink construction paper on Valentine's Day. That was a trip ender one year. It was a bad deal. But now I'm the middle school principal. I'm back where I was the assistant principal, but this year was my first class of kindergartners were now 7th graders. And next year, my whole building will be all kindergarteners who are just in bigger bodies. And so it's very interesting to see them as 5-year-olds and then as 14-year-olds. But I say all this just to give some background and street cred, because I saw all your credentials in the comments and a lot of incredible leaders of elementaries and some middle. So I just want you to know that I may not do this perfectly, but I have a little background in some of working with young learners and middle level learners. But I just want to know how you're doing. How are you feeling right now? See, I was all professional. Pamela's laughing at me. She's like, wow. And then she throws this slide up. Jeez. In the comment box, can you just give me a letter? What letter, where are you at right now? Which character on there do you most likely feel like today? Let's see. Oh, there's the chat. Okay.
Lots of bees. That's bird box, or right? Is it where she can't see? She'll see the bad stuff.
I like the C though.
That's the Shining, right? That was filmed at Timberline. Part of it was. Yeah, my husband John just always is like, "Here's Johnny." He like loves to just do that exact piece. Freaks me out.
Yeah. See, I feel like my external is like A and D, but my internal wavers between B and C. Like you can't see B and C, but that's where I'm at, because externally I'm A and D. Maybe not great A hair, because in Minnesota we don't have hair salons open yet, but you know, and I think that's the piece that I kind of wanted to share, is that as leaders, we do have to wear different hats, and we have to sometimes play a different part than what we're actually feeling. And so when I think about being vulnerable, and you guys have already talked a little bit about that, is just we are in such a crazy season. Nobody's been through a pandemic before. Nobody's learned how to go online and distance learning in 2 weeks or less. So we have to be very careful with our own expectations with this, and to be very careful, like even myself, about comparing to others and what they're doing and their circumstances. Whatever you're doing is amazing, and it's serving your community well. And so just, you've done well. You've served your students, you've served your families. And tonight's just an opportunity to figure out, how do we lean into the rest of this year and still maintain our sanity while doing it? So, let me see here where to clicking. Okay. And you like how I like move my finger thinking that's going to move a slide too. This is, I learned how to type on a legit typewriter. Like my business instructor, she put the paper over my hands. I knew home row solid. I used to have like the autocorrect tape. That was fancy. So this whole Zoom thing is a really exciting piece to me. So last year I finished a book called Lead with Grace, and I really felt like as a leader, I had a lot to learn in the soft skills of leadership, because I could say something, but the way I said it at the middle school and how it was received was very different than how I would say it with kindergarten teachers and how it was received. And so in that work, I really figured out that there were some key areas of leading with authenticity, being vulnerable, having empathy, and leading with integrity. And when you took those characteristics, you could embed those in communication, in relationships, in social media, and then also in self-care. And so it was a really, and of course, then you write a book about it, and then your whole life blows up right after that. Like the Snapchat seen around the world, and you know, those rogue Facebook people that just post on your feed, you know, you can't do anything right. You can't have the right reverse parade, or, you know. So I think it's hilarious that I spend all this time working on leading with grace, and I continue to learn every single day the importance of just trying again, doing the best that you can do, and then just being authentically you. And I think that's really important. Is I can't lead how my elementary colleagues lead. I lead very differently than the assistant principal does. And the moment I try to start leading like somebody else is the moment I start to lose my own credibility, even with the people that I serve, because they're like, you don't wear suits. Like, that's not you. Like, when did you get all formal? When are you, you know, you're not funny today. So I think people read that from you too. And I think as long as you're comfortable in your skin and you own it, you move forward. It's just really important. And so the first one I wanted to talk about was communication graces. And each of these segments, I'm just kind of really giving you the cliff notes, but I wanted to give you examples of each of them with like parents, with students, and with staff. And so take any of this that you want to use or do yet this year, because these are things that I've just done in the last like week or two as well. But I have a video and I think the sound's going to work. And I'm going to tee it up by telling you that the funny part is, oh, being the home of Spam, the fabulous meat product that has like 16 different flavors, and we have a Spam museum in Austin, Minnesota. So if you ever want to come, I'll take you there. You get free Spamples. It's fantastic. But I say all this because we're a community of like 20,000 people. And so in Minnesota, we are considered rural because we're outstate, we're a smaller community, but being the home of Spam, we're also the world headquarters for Hormel, and we have meat packing plants here in our community. So we have 30 different languages represented. And so it's a ton of really cool, great diversity in our community. But when we communicate with families, we have to be really cognizant of the different languages. Primarily, it's Spanish speaking is our secondary language that we utilize. And so our success coach is currently stuck in Bolivia with her family because her mother had surgery in February. She was coming back over spring break and got stuck. And so we have learned how to Zoom and translate family meeting, like messages. And so what you're going to see is her and I interacting. And then we put this on YouTube and share it with families. So we do an English speaking family message and a Spanish one. So hopefully this comes through. It's a little, this was a couple weeks ago, and this was before I got like the external mic. So it's a little tinny, but I think you'll get the point. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound though. That's my only worry.
Personal.
And you will learn quickly that the principal is not a perfect parent.
Y ustedes van a aprender rápidamente que la directora no es una madre perfecta.
So have a little grace with me on this one.
Entonces, por favor, ténganme un poquito de...
So what we were doing is the parents wanted to know, the kids were telling them, oh, we don't have any homework over distance learning. And, you know, we don't have any. And they were having a hard time communicating. And so what we ended up doing is we use Infinite Campus as our communication system. And my 7th grader is a student at the middle school. And so right after that, we went right into his portal. And immediately we found he had 6 missing assignments that I didn't even know about. So as we're recording, I'm like, well, I guess after today's recording, I'll be going upstairs and helping him with his homework. And I could have been like just mortified about this, like, oh my gosh, worst principal ever. I can't even have my own kid stay focused. And in the end, Raquel was like, the parents loved it because you don't even have your poop together. Like literally, you run this building, you speak English, and your kid's still making mistakes. So it relieved pressure for them. Like, oh my gosh, this is fine. And actually, when we walk through it, the whole screen, and show them how to click, and a lot of the families, even though they had a hard time reading English, they could follow my steps, and then they could pull up their own child's missing work. And so that was a really beneficial piece of communication, but it also, they weren't perfect videos. I'd stress out because Raquel always looked better than I did. I don't know if it was just Bolivia's like lighting or just being, I don't know, she looks beautiful. I was a struggle bus. But I had to get over it and say for Friday morning, I've got to do this because this is a way that parents are going to interact with me because they see my voice, they see me, they hear my voice. And I always said, I miss you. We hope you're well, and we're here to help. That was always how I begin and end each of these meetings, because I just wanted them to know the primary thing right now is not about content. It's about caring for you and your family, because a lot of our families, you know, they're essential employees on the plant, or their families are sick somewhere else, or they can't communicate with their families, or they just don't feel like they know how to support their own children. And so really laying that foundation has helped a ton. And at first I'm like, okay, maybe 2 people are going to watch this video. Like, why am I doing this? But what I found out is whether it was 2 people, 30 people, or 100 people, it made a difference for somebody. And I think that's something that's important too, is not looking at the likes or the follows or the retweets or whatever, but somehow your message is going to reach someone in the moment that they need it. And so just remember that. And they might not tell you, but just know that you're doing it for a purpose. and you're doing it to communicate with your stakeholders, and they're going to take something away from that. So these are, and if you want, you can see the links. Each week I also do videos for the Ellis students. And so every once in a while we bring a special guest on. So the second week we brought the assistant principal on so he could talk about a few things. One week I brought my dog on because they wanted to see my dog. Another week we brought a different teacher on and we do like teacher shout outs and stuff. And one week they said you should do a Snapchat filter. And I'm like, well, what is Snapchat? No, I knew what it was, but so I learned, and actually Snapchat filters are way better than just a Zoom filter. They make you look like 20 years younger. I'm not even joking. It's great. But you have to make the videos really short. So so I do that every week. And yesterday I was screenshotting these and I'm like, you know what? This was probably more communication to my kids at school in a consistent method than I did all year. Because I just saw them. So I just talked to them. And so now thinking forward to next year, I'd like to continue some type of a video or a video news segment, just because I think it's important that they continue to see us. And they got to see my house every week, you know, and see where I live and that I have a life outside of school and I don't live at the school, even though they thought you did, pieces like that. And then finally for staff communication, I don't know about your teachers out there. And am I supposed to say oh, here we go, Oregon. I don't know.
You did it. You said it right.
God, he was stressing me out. I was like, they're going to all leave the Zoom call if I do this wrong.
Oh.
But our teachers are,
you did fantastic.
okay. Our teachers are tapped in Minnesota. We weren't predicting this, and this happened to be like the once in a career cohort anyway. And there's a lot of loss. There's a lot of stress. And they're doing more now than they ever did in the classroom. The online meetings, the emails, the staying connected. But I also learned that they got really overwhelmed quickly. And then they get embarrassed. Oh, I didn't see that email. Or what am I supposed to do with this again? How are we grading? What does this look like? And so I learned really quickly that not only did I have to communicate clearly, but I had to do it often. And then I had to have a clearinghouse where everything was. And so we are a Microsoft district. We're not a Google district. So we have what's called Microsoft OneNote. And so what you'll see there is all the communication, a column of every daily communication. And so I archive it. So if a teacher's like, gosh, I know she said this, they could just go in there and every like email is listed. And they know between 8 and 8:30 every day, I'll send them the daily communication. And I only send one email a day. And then I also include the videos that I send to parents and students, because if you're not a parent in our building, you don't actually get those portal pushes. So it's not required, but I've had a couple teachers even today say, hey, can you send the video out? Because the kids are talking about your video today. And I just want to see what you said. Okay. But, and then I do this Jess and Ryan still working on, because I don't know about your building, but do you ever get the teacher that's like, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about this? Did you think about this? You know, or 8 of them are like, did you plan the holiday program yet? Do you have graduation set? No, I actually didn't think about it this year. You know, like, but you can't say that. You can think it, your thought bubble, but you can't speak it. And so we started this, Jess and Ryan are working on. So yeah, so then when they would say, hey, have you thought about grading? I can put that in my update the next day saying, yeah, we're working on it. So then I wouldn't get multiple emails about certain topics. And then maybe I didn't have the answer that day or that week, but I heard them and I put it down to say, we're working on it. And that really helped that reflective feedback loop, where if we were in the building, I could just walk down the hall and talk to somebody. I wouldn't have to keep the email chain. But here we had to think of a way that everybody could hear the same message, but then also put it in a place where they could find it again. So here we go. Learning in the season is about not perfection, but being purposeful. So you'll notice every day we do I'll talk about it later, a Google form. Some days I forgot the link. Like, click this link. There's no link there. Like, you know, I always love it. Like, it's 2 hours later and somebody, I think they were all texting, who's going to tell her it's not there? Who's going to tell her it's not there? You know, like, they're all afraid. I'm like, somebody just tell me I screwed up, please. You know, gosh, we're all tenured here. It's not like any, you know, anyway, just know that just doing something is better than doing nothing. And the more that I put myself out there in this season, the more they were willing to do that with their own students. They were less scared of like trying a Snapchat video or Zooming a recording or doing things because they're like, oh my gosh, I could do that better than Jess, or, oh, that wasn't so bad. So I think that just modeling that vulnerability is really important. So Chris, we're going to go into that breakout now, because I wanted you just to think about communication, and in a small breakout, talk about one way you found to communicate and build relationships with one of those stakeholders. So something you're doing now that you didn't do before or didn't do as much of. So whether it's, you know, communicating with students, communicating with families, or communicating with your own staff, what's a new way that you found that you're building on that maybe you might take back next year?
Okay, you ready to launch?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Awesome. Okay, we're coming back in. Oh my goodness, here we are. Is my screen still shared? You see my screen still? No, okay, good. I'll get that back up. Sharing screen, share sound. Okay, there we go. All right, well, thank you. I actually thank my breakout group. I really appreciate it because now I've got some ideas that I can still do for next year. So thank you for the help. I appreciate that. We're going to dive right in because we're moving fast. We're going to talk a little bit about grace and relationships. So we focused on communication. Now we're going to start talking about relationships. And we had our final staff meeting last week on Thursday, and we needed one final push to really end the year strong. And we were trying to figure out a way to help teachers see, yep, I know you're exhausted. This marathon turned into a triathlon, and now it's like, I mean, it's insane. And I'm asking for one more thing. And so I'm going to share a quick video with you, and you certainly can use it because I've talked to Joe quite a bit about it. But if you don't, I don't know if you follow Joe Sanfilippo, but he's an incredible superintendent in Wisconsin. And he put this out, and I'm going to play it. And I'll just talk through a little bit of what we did with it, just to kind of help teachers see, you know, what's the final way that we want to support our students here at the end of this pandemic school year.
Looks like it's freezing a little bit, huh? Oh, there we go.
And Joe Sanfilippo. And what I've come to learn in this profession is that when you get a handwritten letter addressed in that manner, it's not always a great letter. So a couple weeks ago, when I was doing one of these walks, I had mentioned my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Gebhardt, and that I didn't remember everything that she taught me, but I did remember her smile at the door every day. And she was happy that I decided to get into this wonderful profession of education. People were fully invested in the peak of this crisis. How do we help them stay invested in the end? Because if we can stay invested in the peak and the end, then that's what kids and families are going to talk about for years to come. Just got to take care of each other.
All right, well, it looks like I froze a couple times, so I apologize if you didn't get to see it. But really, I'll just quick say, so really what he talks about is just the peak and the end, and he shares a personal story about his own 4th grade teacher. And it really hit a lot of our teachers. Like, the kids aren't going to remember the lessons I taught, but they're going to remember the last moments I had with them. And so we shared that, and then we talked about the good news calls of the day for the rest of the year, and we shared a spreadsheet. Within 2 hours, I had over 100 recommendations for good news calls out of a building of 800. So just a 2-minute video. I didn't say you're required. I didn't say I'm going to keep track of who did it. I just said you have an opportunity to really make something end this year really meaningfully. And it really just, the video was powerful enough. And so it's that connection of just staying connected on social media. I just happened to see that on Twitter 2 days before. And I was thinking about how am I going to help teachers see, like, this last push is going to mean a lot. And that video did more than anything I could have said. So I think it is really important that those good intentions are nothing without strong relationships, in figuring out creative ways to reach teachers or to reach families in really difficult seasons. You have to get really creative about that. In our breakout, I shared briefly that we didn't get to do our 7th grade orientation. Like that's a big deal in middle school. Like, you know, you get initiated in the gangs the 2nd week of school, and there's all this violence, and you're going to shave your head. I mean, like the war stories about middle school are incredible and not true. So we'd use these like feet on campus opportunities to help parents decrease their anxiety about middle school. The kids are fine, but it's the parents that I'm working with. And so I did a quick video last week just telling the incoming 7th grade parents, like, hey, this is Mrs. Cabine. I'm really sorry we couldn't do this face-to-face, but here's what we want to do over the summer to help you and your child get ready for middle school. And one of the biggest questions I get is, how does my kid get from one class to another within 4 minutes? And so in this video, I walked from like one of the furthest points in the building to the other point in like 90 seconds. And I said, this was even without socialization. I can still talk to somebody, but it was just a really clear way to say, hey, I hear you, and I'm sorry we couldn't honor building a relationship in person, but here's one way I want you to see me and who I am. And then we also have a form going out saying, you ask, we answer. And so they're just asking questions about middle school, and we're going to create like newsletters and blogs over the summer to kind of help with that transition. And so then I talked a little bit about that good news call. So we called it the COVID edition. And so I did this in the kindergarten center, and it was super powerful. And I transitioned it to the middle school, and everybody thought I was crazy. Middle schoolers, why would you call middle school parents? Like, they love it. The parents freak out though. The kids think it's hilarious because we pretend that they're in trouble, and I call the parent and I'm all formal, and I'm like, no, it's a good news call. So the teachers recommend students for specific things. And then I bring the kid in, we make a call, and then I take a selfie with them, and we put it on an interior wall in my office because they don't want public acknowledgement they did something good, but they want it interior. So then their friends can see, you know, I get to go on the wall, or I'm going to go on the wall. And so what we're going to do with this is the teachers are doing it remotely, and then I'm going to do a personal card to each of the students, and we're going to take this out of an Excel spreadsheet and send it home. So they're going to get a note from me, and they're going to get specific notes from their teachers. And like I said, within the first hour, we had over 100. Today, we have like 300. It's incredible. And I front loaded with the secretaries first. I said, can we do this, bosses? Because you know, it's not just you that's making those prints, you know, printing the labels and everything. So you got to ask the bosses first, and they were okay with it. And then here's the last thing too, with when we talk about staff, is our staff check-in. And so I had to find a way to take attendance, which I think is stupid because they're working. Teachers are working right now. If I have not seen a teacher just taking a nap for a week binge watching Bird Box, but we're gonna take attendance every day. That's fine. So we found a fun way to do it. So we would do a daily check-in. And so I would ask every day the same question right away was, how are you feeling? And these are the 4 options that they had to choose from. Either I'm doing fine, I'm struggling a little bit, I'd love to connect with you virtually, I need you to call me. And this was one of our highest days. We had 100%. Usually it was about 87. Sometimes I had green and sometimes I had yellow. And we would honor those too. But it was a good check-in for me too, to gauge where we were at in different cycles of this. And then we had a question of the day. And so this one was, the one for today was, what did student had the best Zoom call during 4th quarter? Last week, on an average of 1 to 10, how bad do you need a hair appointment right now? I was asking for the male assistant principal, not me. So I would do a reflective feedback so people could see what everybody answered. Or I would email them privately based upon their response. It averaged between 60 and 70 responses a day. I didn't respond to every one of them every time, but at least once a week I made a point to go in and make an acknowledgement, to just say, hey, I'm here for you, whatever you need. And after 4 or 5 weeks of it, people were like, if they needed something, they'd say something and we'd have a call. So it was a really good way for me to get connected with people on a larger scale. So I could do like a daily dipstick of how people were feeling. So then, how do you creatively celebrate the end of the year? So we're going to do, Chris, can we just do a 3-minute breakout this time just because I'm watching the time, or did you already set it for 5? If you set it for 5, that's okay.
We can do 3 minutes. That'll be great.
Just a really quick 3-minute brainstorm. You guys are like 2 weeks yet before your end of the year, but you maybe start to think about that now. So what are you going to do to creatively celebrate the end of your year? So you're going to break out for 3 minutes just to brainstorm some ideas. Right, here we are again. All right, just a little bit more. Thank you for sticking it out with me here. Hope you guys are learning a few things, laughing a little bit, and just finding some resources so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, which is really important in this time. So the two more things. One is social graces, how to interact and act online. A couple ways in which we're creatively trying to connect with our stakeholders is figuring out which platform makes the most sense for the population. So Our middle school students prefer Instagram, but I'm not a great Instagrammer, but I have two younger teachers that are super solid at it. So there's a way you can all have the login. And so we've set up a system. So I'll always post Monday, and then they post the rest of the week, either a graphic or a survey or something. So every day something goes out on our Instagram page. And then on Instagram, you like how I'm like doing it in my head right here, like you can see my fake phone. There's a way that when you post to Instagram, it also could link to your Facebook page. And so whatever we post to our students, our parents see on our Facebook page too. So it's pretty transparent in the sense of we're not hiding anything from the parents, but and that's where I load all of our student videos. So it goes in their portal account, but then it also goes on Instagram, depending on what platform they want to check. We use S'more as our newsletter. And so the top there is we do a joint newsletter with our 5-6 school. And so we send that out on Fridays. So parents know on Fridays, the parent newsletter comes out, and then Mondays, the information from myself comes out. So they can kind of predict when they're going to get information. And then during the season, we started a staff newsletter, and we used MailChimp, which I wasn't familiar with before, but it's a pretty easy way. You throw blocks in and you can kind of create things. And so on Mondays, that's when that comes out for staff. And it's usually like a tech resource, a funny video or a meme. And it's just a cool way for us to kind of connect everything. And then with MailChimp, it archives everything. So they can seek all the previous newsletters. And then, so I think that's just important that there's different tools that you can utilize online. And then, you know, the public service announcement, you're never going to win a war on social media, so don't try. The moment you try to respond to somebody, usually just flames it up even more. Here's a funny that probably everybody else in this group knows but me. But if you actually look at who's negative, chances are they're negative with everything. It's not just about you. Like they're barking up at the grocery line, or they're upset at, you know, the postman, or a couple times this spring or this fall, actually, they got the wrong Austin. They were upset at something in Austin, Texas. So I just DM'd them and said, you know, you might that's south. This is Minnesota. So, I mean, sometimes it's perspective too, but I think it's also sometimes when I'm in a really like place, I'll have to tally it and say, okay, yep, I got 2 negative comments and I have 12 positive ones. You know, like we're not going to please everybody, but we are going to please, you know, the right people, and the right people want to hear the message. And sometimes they don't respond, which is okay too, but they hear it. So just those are kind of some things. But honestly, in this season of distance learning, I've seen a lot more grace on social media. I've seen supportive parents. I've seen supportive educators and communities. I haven't seen the negativity that was really rampant in my perspective earlier in the year and in previous years in regards to education. I feel like this season has really taught adults how to be better adults and how to respect educators and all the incredible work that they do. So I'm just really hoping that continues for all of us. But I want to just, where did I go? Okay, grace with yourself. So finally, this is the last segment, and then we're going to let you guys go enjoy your evening. But putting pause in the pace of all this grace, and Kate really talked about this at the beginning, is this thing has gone on forever, and we're all tired. And so how are you pausing in your life to really think about what have I done? Like, what have I grown, and how am I going to continue to just take care of myself in this summer? So in the chat box, what was something that you've learned or done differently or better because of this? Have you learned more about your staff, built relationships? Are you communicating better or more with families? Have you developed plans and processes? Or D, a blank. So what have you learned? Like, what is something you could champion? Like, hey, this is something I got better at in this season. Let me move this over so I can see it. Hosting Zoom meetings, connecting more with families. It is, yep, it is okay to write something down and be proud of it. There's no competition here. It's all about celebration, and just the fact that you learned something in this season. You're going to walk away from this saying, yep, it was a challenge and it was difficult, but I now can do this, or I learned this. I think that's just really important in this, is to have grace and take a pause and say, yeah, this was really hard, and I learned something and I got better at something. And so just think about that. And when it's getting big and difficult, just remember, like, take a pause, take a deep breath and say, okay, I've equipped myself to do this better. And then finally, Rachel knows I say this quite a bit, and I say this often to myself, but self-care is not selfish, and at times it can be life-saving. I think it's really important in this season that we're modeling self-care for our staff. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we're inadvertently modeling that they shouldn't take care of themselves either. And so I will take an hour off during the day and eat lunch with my kids, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll get away from the computer, or just try to model that too. And I don't send emails at night in this season. I really try hard to stay off my computer. And we had a PD day, and I said, everybody, company line, we are professionally developing ourselves in a very individualized manner. Vegas, nobody on the computer today. Like, go garden, go golf, go do something that you enjoy, but take a break from all of this pace, because it's great. It's gonna, we have another month left. But I think it's just important to just continue to model that self-care. And so a commitment, what is something that this summer that you'll do for yourself? What is something you will do for yourself this summer? Put it in the chat box. We won't let you, Chris won't let you leave until you put something in the chat box. I talked to him ahead of time. He's not gonna let y'all gonna be here all night with me and my dog if you don't put something in here. It can be just something like there, something. I've noticed that if you don't put it out there, you won't do it. So that's why I make people write it out. Taking a detox, even just, I'm gonna take a day off from my phone. I'm gonna break up with my phone for a day. That's okay. Or an hour, you know? Oh, Kim, yep. These are fantastic. Oh my gosh, keep going. So I put my contact if you want to take a picture of it. Otherwise, I'm sure Kate will send it out. But I really, really appreciate this opportunity to spend time with you guys. Thank you so very much.
And do you know, just in case, as we're switching over the slide deck, you do want to take a picture of this, we're going to send a link out, and Jessica actually has her book, Lead with Grace, on sale, and it's cheaper than the Amazon price, Jess, right? Isn't it $16?
Yeah,
which is fantastic.
I have it in my basement. I have a bunch of them in my basement, so I'd rather just ship them to you really cheap than you having to pay it on Amazon.
Oh, I love it. And that's a fantastic book. It really spoke to my heart when I read it, and is a fantastic read as you're heading into summer and you're just thinking about next year and just taking a break with yourself. It's one of those books that I wish had existed in principal school or in your IAL program, because they often don't talk about those things, and Jessica does so candidly and authentically. So thank you. So,
and just really, truly special thanks, Jessica. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom, and taking time out of your busy day. You are an acting principal and busy mom and wife, and we just really appreciate you being here. So thank you. Thank you so much. And we will make sure everybody gets your contact information and with a follow-up email.
with the link for the book.
Yeah, great. So, I'll give Rachel an opportunity to speak as well, but just wanted to say thank you all for taking time to be with us. And it's just been a true pleasure getting to know you virtually, at least matching faces with names. And we really are stronger together, and we are looking forward to continuing this venue of professional learning together once a month, starting in September. And so we hope you will join us and bring a friend and share topics that you are really interested in learning about. I know our OESPA board is going to be brainstorming what this might look like, and we just love your input, because this is truly needs to be an authentic venue to work together and share ideas together. So thanks so much for being here, and I'm going to hand it over to Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Would hit like and retweet on what Kate just said, which is fantastic. But we are being serious. We would love, as we're formulating the next couple months as we come back into the new school year, what you would like to talk about and what your needs are and your interests. So then that way we can make sure to serve you effectively and efficiently. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat box, just taking a moment and maybe putting a couple things down that cross your mind that you would like us to hit on, that would be really, really fantastic. So we appreciate you guys, and we wish you the best as you wrap up the next couple weeks with school and you head into a fantastic summer. I keep telling myself it'll slow down once kids are done and teachers are done, and I know it will. And so please take some time for yourself, take care of that self-care aspect of your life, and get rejuvenated. So you're important, and we need you guys as our fabulous leaders in Oregon as we continue to take this challenge on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Great ideas that you've been posting in the chat box. So keep them going, and we'll see you in a couple months. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great summer, and just don't be afraid to reach out. I know that a principal reached out to me today just asking a question about variances, and so that's the name of the game, is just sharing with each other, and so don't hesitate to reach out anytime. So thanks for being here, everybody.